I'm excited to bring to you part 2 of my conversation with Jeff Schiefelbein. Jeff is the co-founder and chief culture officer at Five, a Texas-based energy advisory firm that's been tremendously successful. Jeff is also the father of 5 kids with a 6th one on the way. And I got to ask Jeff about how do you not just talk about being a great father, but how, as a busy business leader, do you actually activate that in your life? Jeff has some tremendous insights that whether you're a father, a mother, or just a person, you're really going to benefit from hearing. We hear, and rightly so, the challenges for working mothers, right? And they are unique and they are real of trying to balance being a good mother and being productive in the workplace and achieving all those sorts of things. It seems to me we don't hear as much around the challenge of being a working father. Maybe because people think just, we've been doing it longer and so we ought to know, or, kind of whatever that is. But as a man who is highly interested in raising great kids, being a great husband, there is a unique set of challenges and approaches to that. And I know this is something you have a ton of passion around, but a lot of opinion on. And so I would love it if you just talk for a few minutes on that topic.
I love this question. Thank you. I do think the roots of this are just this old school paradigm that the man goes off and works, and that's the role. And that has shifted a long time ago, but somehow we've had this legacy thought process there. If you look at my personal priorities of God before my wife, before my kids, before all else, then I have to live that, right? I have to be able to have the behaviors and the actions. Doesn't mean there isn't crunch time where I have to work hard on a project. But so my wife and I right now have 5 beautiful children, ages 8 to 1. And then we're expecting our next one in August of this year. So number 6 is coming fast, and we are so excited. And it's been fascinating to me because I can remember before I had kids watching somebody in a business environment. He had 2 young kids at home, and somebody walked in. He actually still works with me today. That was 16 years ago. Somebody walked in and said, "Oh, I bet it's exhausting when you get home." And he said, "Make no mistake about it. The best part of my day is walking in my door from a long day of work and then taking care of my girls and getting engaged with them and playing with them." And I loved that he didn't say the typical, "Yeah, it's a handful," or "I'd rather be out, at the bar," or whatever people just say that's just words coming out of their mouth. And I watched everybody in the room change their tune. And from that moment on, thanks to Eric Bratcher, who works with us at Five, thanks to that moment, I've always said that language matters. And so I refuse to do that water cooler talk about how being married or having kids or having a lot of kids is a drag or how exhausting it is. Like, what a gift, what a blessing it is that I took a kid to a soccer game, that I had a sick kid the night before. I mean, I get to be dad to all those people. So for me to go ahead and live through the behaviors and the actions, the priorities I just said, then I'm going to make sure that I set up my schedule so that I'm not working when I'm present to them. And so my rules of engagement are after about 5:45 at night, you can email me if you want to, but I'm not going to be engaging in that outside of emergencies. And nobody emails an emergency, by the way. I'm going to focus on my family. Well, it's a pretty busy time sometimes, right? So my schedule is I'm going to wake up super early because I am a morning person. I knock out an hour's of work before I go and get the kids up and start doing breakfast and hanging out with them in the morning. So it's a real special time for me. But that rule of engagement says if somebody wants to work on a Saturday morning or a Sunday afternoon, great. But don't be firing off emails to the whole company or to your direct reports because you're hijacking a time that they've carved out for their mental break and their personal relaxation and the health of that individual, mind, body, soul, family, community, whatever it is. The health of that individual is only going to lead to be a benefit for the company. So I want them to be as healthy as possible. I want them to have the best home life possible. I want their best self showing up at home. So instead, if you want to work on a Sunday, go for it. But just schedule your emails to come out the next day and keep going back to that language of the fact that we are very lucky to have the people in our lives that we care about. So let's speak about them in a way that's uplifting and positive and not in that typical, "Oh, it's such a bummer." I mean, I consider fatherhood and I consider my relationship with my wife to be my primary vocation. And then I get to use these other skills to be a contributor and an important part of Five or any of these other groups as well.
a lot of richness in there. I like your comment about language matters, right? And you said this before when you were talking about, I got to spend a night in jail. I didn't have to spend a night in jail, right? Even though you did
That's
have
right.
to, right? And same thing, like one of the, I heard several years ago something that really stuck with me, an executive talking about this, trying to figure out how to be around the kids more, whatever, and had to miss the game because I had to be at the board meeting. And someone said, no, you chose to be at the board meeting.
Mhm.
He said, no, I had to. Like, I had to be there for my job. No, like you could quit your job. Like you chose to, right?
That's
And
right.
it's just this idea of you are in control of how you spend your time and choosing the activities versus being a victim of the circumstance.
About 2 years ago, I stepped into the president role for the private school where my kids go for the board. And about a year after that, I was speaking at a retreat and somebody came up to me and they said, "Thank you for your witness to family." And I said, "You're welcome, but what are you talking about?" And they said, "I heard that you don't do board meetings outside of 8 to 5 because that would be carving into your personal time. And the priorities of your children is why you're on this board anyways." And that just even that statement, right? Just being clear around what are the priorities and why am I doing this helps other people to realize that they can do the same thing. They can speak up, they can modify schedules or even deprioritize some things if that's what it takes.
Well, and I'm so glad you went back there because this is another statement you used a minute ago, and I actually wrote it down, is the health of an individual benefits the company, right? Because I think what you see often in leaders is it's this expectation that, like, everybody else figures it out. And I'm working on a Sunday afternoon, or I work at, 7 at night or whatever. And so it's, if you truly believe that if other people are healthy holistically in their life, that's ultimately going to benefit the company, it changes the way that you engage, and it changes the expectations if you have for how and when they're going to engage as well. And that's a big flip.
Now, I know at your company, you want the most engaged, most creative, most energetic versions of all of your people, whether they're frontline, in a healthcare facility or as an executive sitting down the hall. The best version of that person couldn't possibly be exhausted or stressed right before they're going to bed because they have to get that last 10:45 at night email to prove that they're also still working. It doesn't sound like a place where you're going to get the best. It sounds like you end up starting to play games with expectations instead of just being clear around we're all here to sprint together appropriately.